Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to talk about a car that was a sales flop. They only made it from 2005 to 2007. The Ford 500. But they weren't actually that bad of a car. And this one's even more of a rare one. It's an all-wheel drive job. Very handy in Wisconsin. Now the Ford 500 was meant to be the replacement of the Ford Taurus. The 500 name coming from their Galaxy 500 line. They took the 500 number. And it had a lot of Volvo technology in the suspension system. Because back when they made these, Ford owned Volvo, and they put some good ride into these vehicles. They're excellent riding vehicles. My neighbor next door right here had one. He loved it. Now they did have their shortcomings, mainly under the hood. They had a rather small V6 engine, and in this particular case, it's not only all-wheel drive, but it has a CVT transmission, constantly variable transmissions, so it was pretty much a dog when it came to full-blown acceleration. Now back in the day, I drove the 500s that had the 6-speed automatic transmission, and they were actually pretty quick vehicles. But the 6-speed automatic transmission was a much weaker one than the CVT transmission. I saw them go out as early as 30,000 miles. My neighbor next door had the CVT version. He never had a transmission problem, and I didn't see any of my customers have problems with them either. They are slower. There's no arguing that. It's not a race car with the CVT transmission, and especially with all-wheel drive. But take this example. Customer bought it a year ago for $3,000 in Wisconsin. A lot of snow in Wisconsin. I've never been there in the winter, but I've been there in the summer, and I asked them, what are those big poles up in the air with red on top? And they say, well, that's so the snowplow can see the road when they plow it up. And those things were like 12 feet up in the air. So snow's a lot there. He said it really worked good in the snow. And this one's still purring along. They can be a great knockaround car these days, because even though these things are a foot shorter than the big old Crown Vics, they actually have more room inside, front to back, than the Crown Vic does. Just check out the trunk. They're massive. They just go on and on and on into the darkness here. Now with the Volvo-derived suspension and airbag system, Volvos are always safe vehicles. These are nice riding cars and extremely safe. Not just the size of the vehicle, but it's got all that Volvo airbag technology behind it. And like I said, the engine's no speed demon, but it's a tried and true V6 with timing chain, not timing belt engines that can last a long time as long as you change the oil and don't overheat them. And this one might be 15 years old. It's still got killer AC, a lot of volume, and a lot of cold air. It's a nice looking cabin, got some wood trim, comfy seats, and real easy to drive. And sure, it's not a race car. It's also not a real economical car. Although on the highway, now this thing only gets about 20 miles a gallon in the city. My neighbor, who drives slower, admittedly, he was getting 35 miles a gallon on the highway with the CVT transmission. You lose the acceleration power, but man, you can get a lot better gas mileage with one. And as I said earlier, strangely enough, the CVT in these things is actually the more dependable transmission. The 6-speed automatics broke down a lot. They had a lot of problems, but the CVTs were actually better built transmissions. Even though they have less acceleration, hey, if you get a car this big and you can get 35 miles a gallon on a highway, that's pretty good. And even though this one's 15 years old, parts are readily available to Ford. I had no problems. I'm doing a brake job on this one. Took me 5 seconds to find the brake pads. Drove down the street, took a minute to get them. They're still easy to get parts for. You won't have any problems when it comes to having to fix them. So the $3,000 my customer paid for this, hey, I thought he got a pretty good deal. It's a decent car. He does HVAC work. He's always driving around fixing air conditioning. Puts the tools in the trunk. You saw all the room in that trunk. It's a decent work car, really. And sure, it's a grandpa looking car to some extent, but hey, for $3,000, hey, you got a good deal on this car. It's got front and rear disc brakes. I mean, I kind of wondered why they stopped making them, but since the 6-speed automatics had so many problems, that gave people a lot of sour grapes. Most of the customers of mine that bought these got the 6-speed automatic that broke all the time. The ones that got the CVT that wanted good gas mileage and drove slow, they loved them. I did have some customers that bought them with CVTs and they hated them. They said that thing is so slow, it won't get out of its own way. They didn't like the vehicle at all. So the combination of those two things, that's probably pretty much what led to the death knell of them in 2007, which was the last year that they built them. But if you can find one of these all-wheel drive versions with the CVT, and you live up north in the snow, this car came from Wisconsin. There's no rust on it. They rust-proof cars a lot better than they used to. Seal them so they don't rust. It spent most of its life in Wisconsin. It just came down here. Doesn't have any appreciable rust on it at all. So now you know a little bit more about the Ford 500 and why, hey, you might take a chance with a good used one that's in nice shape like this. For a few $1,000s, you might get a great beater car. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.